Hi guys, and welcome to my spoiler review for the Child's Play remake. Obviously this is a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie, then look away now. If you haven't seen the movie but you don't care about spoilers, then continue watching if you want, but I do have a non-spoiler review if you're interested. I don't want to repeat myself from what I said in the non-spoiler review, so I will touch on some things that I spoke about in that, but I'll elaborate more in this review. First off, I want to talk about how Chucky became an evil Chucky. At the beginning of the film, I think it's set in Vietnam at the start. Is it Vietnam? And these factory workers are making the new Buddy doll, or the current Buddy doll, and there's this factory worker who's always daydreaming, and this guy just comes up to him and slaps him and says, "You're going to get fired after this. This is your last Chucky doll. This is your last Buddy doll, in fact." And he's thinking, I don't care. So he starts taking all the safety precautions off of the microchip and puts it into the Chucky doll, into the Buddy doll, and that's how Buddy becomes evil. It was a very lazy way of doing it, but I can understand why they done it that way. They wanted to make it simple, and in fact, when I saw that part in the movie, I said to myself, that's very cheap and lazy. However, it's very 80s like. It's like an 80s horror movie classic cliche of making something very convenient to bring on the story, and that's what they've done with this. It was very simple. He took off the safety precautions on this Buddy chip, and that's what caused them to become evil and malfunction. Now, I'm not sure if that would actually happen in real life, taking off safety precautions on a doll, and for the doll to do what it did throughout the movie. I don't think that's something that would ever happen.
I'm Sophia.
Yeah? Anything else?
I'm a robot.
Maybe in a few years' time, I don't know, but why would Kazlan put those features on a doll to restrict in the first place? That's a good question. The storylines between the original and the remake, although they're very different in terms of voodoo and technology, they've still got the same core story to them. You've got a mum and a son with no dad, and they live in an apartment building. The boy gets a doll for his birthday, the doll starts killing people, so you've got that same trend as you do with the original. So in this one, there is nothing new apart from it's a technological horror movie rather than a voodoo horror movie. So even though the tech aspect completely changed the dynamic of the film, I still felt like I was watching the same stuff that I was in the original. There were some slight nods to the original in this film. One of the nods that I really liked was the lightning that we saw coming down on the city now and again. It reminded me of the Child's Play poster from 1988, so that was a good nod. Orion makes this movie, so there's some nods to other 80s movies like RoboCop. You hear RoboCop's voice in one of the little police cars, which was cool. I think he said, "Dead or alive, you're coming with me."
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
And then obviously we saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 in this film, which I'll talk about more. There was also a nod to Toy Story. I don't know if you saw that, but I will talk about that. We've seen the posters for Child's Play coming out that was making fun of the Toy Story characters because they're coming out on the same day. But I don't know if you noticed that Andy's bedroom looked a lot like Andy's bedroom from Toy Story. Instead of having clouds on a blue wall, he had stars on a blue wall, and his bed looked very similar to Toy Story's Andy's as well. Let me quickly talk about the soundtrack. I didn't listen to the soundtrack before seeing the movie. I know the soundtrack got released. People were sending me links to the soundtrack, asking me to have a listen to it. I didn't want to because I wanted to go into it blind. I really loved the soundtrack to Child's Play 2. Bizarrely, not Child's Play 1, but Child's Play 2. It was very childlike and scary. And this one kind of mimicked that. I think this one was really good as well. It reminded me of the Child's Play 2 soundtrack. And who could forget that song, "You Are My Buddy," from Mark Hamill. You are my buddy. When I came out the cinema, I kept singing that into my head over and over and over again. You are my buddy. Karen's boyfriend meets a very horrible death, and what makes it more interesting is because his death was mimicked from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Chucky is like the Terminator. He's a learning computer, so everything that he watches, he's processing over and over. And the kids decide to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 when the parents are out. Who doesn't as a teenager? And Chucky's watching it with them, so he's looking at it and he starts to mimic what he sees on the TV. And because of this, he mimics Leatherface, and then he goes to kill Karen's boyfriend. And he kills him in a very gruesome way. He breaks his legs by accident, and he goes over his head with a lawnmower, and then he scalps him and takes his skin off his face and puts it onto a watermelon. As funny as that sounds, it was pretty gruesome. As much as I love the idea of this Chucky learning all the time, it also makes me feel like he was innocent. He's only doing what other people are doing. He's only mimicking what other people are doing as well. So this movie seems to blame society for what Chucky does. it is hard to explain. You have to see the movie to understand what I'm talking about, but there's all this talk about watching horror movies makes people violent, and this is what this movie was like. Chucky is only violent because of what he sees around him. Kazlan is like a more advanced Alexa. It can control a lot of things around your house. It can control your heating, it can control your TV, it helps Buddy move around. Buddy is like a walking Kazlan, and it can control your cars as well and your drones. So it's very interesting to see what they did with that in this film. I think it was a little bit too advanced in this film. Maybe that's what will happen in the future, I don't know. But I think that was a little bit too advanced. But sometimes it was fun to see Buddy control some of these products. This version of Buddy was an older version. We had Buddy 2 coming out. We had a black Buddy 2, we had a white Buddy 2, we had a Buddy Bear, and we also had Buddy 2 accessories as well. I think that looks like it could be something we could see in a future sequel, if there is a sequel. There was a scene involving Buddy Bear, which I didn't think I was going to like, but I was highly entertained. I really liked the characters in this film. There were some throwaway characters, which is common for a horror movie, but all the important characters got their screen time. All the important characters were built up, and in fact all the death scenes in this film involved characters that we got to know, not fully like Andy and Karen, but there's characters in this film that we knew who they were, we knew their purpose in the film, and then they were killed off. They weren't just killed off and we didn't know who they were at all. There was this worker at the beginning of the film that we're introduced to. He takes all the Kazlan products that are not working and sends them off. He also works for Kazlan, so when they're bringing out a new Buddy doll, he's like the mascot for it. And there was a really horrible death scene for him where he put on the Buddy outfit to go out and see all these kids to introduce the new Buddy 2 doll, and then Chucky just stabs him in the neck. So he's falling all over with this Buddy head, and when he takes the Buddy head off, all his blood from his neck splurts all over this little girl, and he's dying, but he's not dead yet. So we're thinking, oh, he could actually survive. But then Buddy starts controlling these drones, and then one of the drones goes right into the guy's neck and starts propelling all over him, and then he dies. Detective Mike Norris had a mother in this film, and we were introduced to her in it, and she had a fun death. When I say fun, it's obviously not nice to die, but in this film it's quite creepy, and I think that was one of my favourite deaths because it had a good build up to her death. Buddy was playing peekaboo with her. The only reason he wanted to kill her is because he was getting jealous that her and Andy were spending time together, and she called Andy her best buddy, and he's thinking, no, that's not going to happen. Andy's my best buddy. I thought the Jack Black maintenance man was going to have a bigger role in this film, and I'm glad he didn't, because from the way the trailers portrayed his character, I thought that he was the cause of Buddy being evil. And he wasn't. He was just the pervy maintenance guy who found Buddy in the chute because Andy didn't want him anymore, and he fixed him up and then eventually got killed by Buddy. And again, it was a gruesome scene and a prolonged scene because he was burning his hands because Buddy was controlling the temperature and he was trying to hold on to this pole. If he let go of the pole, he was going to get sliced by his saw. Just as I predicted, Andy had a hearing aid in this film. When you saw the trailers, he had it in his ear, and I said, that's a hearing aid he's got, and everybody's like, no, it's not a hearing aid, it's some sort of controller for Buddy, which I thought, okay, that might be the case, but it's not. He had the hearing aid, and I thought it was significant, or I thought it was going to be significant for this film. The only significance of Andy having a hearing aid in this film was so that Buddy could communicate with him, which makes me think, is that a Kazlan hearing aid? I think they underutilised the hearing aid aspect for Andy. If they're going to put a hearing aid in him, they should have had a scene where Andy's lost his hearing aid, he's looking for it, and then something's happening in the background. Chucky's killing somebody and coming closer and closer to Andy, and he can't hear them because his hearing aids fell out. Something like that would have been cool. That didn't happen, but it didn't bother me too much. Like I mentioned in my non-spoiler review, you have to distance yourself from the original Chucky when it comes to the Chucky doll itself. Brad Dourif and Mark Hamill are completely different. Brad Dourif was amazing, his Chucky was amazing, I'll take nothing away from that. But when I heard Mark Hamill speak, when I seen the Chucky doll, I wasn't fussed by the look of the Chucky doll. It didn't bother me because the original Chucky doll looked silly as well back in 1988. It's iconic now because we've known it for over 30 years, but we're just getting introduced to this Chucky doll. The same things are probably being said now about this one as the same as what happened in 1988. So yeah, the doll didn't bother me at all, but when I heard Mark Hamill speak, I was like, I'm happy with that. I really like Mark Hamill, and it made me forget about Brad Dourif. At times, Karen felt like a useless character in this movie. She was very prominent in the original. She was the main character, basically, in the original movie, and she had that connection with Detective Mike Norris. In this one, she has no connection with Mike, so that was missing from this film, and she wasn't in this movie as much, and that is because Andy is a teenager in this film. He doesn't rely on his mother as much as he did in the original one. I mentioned that in my non-spoiler review. So Andy's main focus is to kill Chucky on his own without his mother's help, and he has a band of misfits helping him as well, kind of like Stranger Things. So yeah, he didn't need her as much in this film, which was fine, but I missed Karen in this one because I really liked her character in the original. Andy's connection with Mike was stronger than Mike's connection with Karen, so they flipped it around a little bit in this one. There was no kind of interested love connection between Karen and Mike in this movie. It was just literally a bonding, friendly connection between Mike and Andy. The finale went by pretty quick, but it was a good quick because it was non-stop. There was not a lot of talking, just a lot of action, to be honest. A lot of horror as well, but a part of me still thinks that Chucky was innocent all the way through this movie. He was doing things because of what he saw and how he was reacting, because he's not a human being, he's not a soul, he's just a malfunctioning robot. So things that he was doing in this film were partly the robotics and the machine's fault and society's fault. So at the end of the day, you'd have to blame Kazlan ultimately for what the Chucky doll done because of the features that they put into this doll. Whether there was safety precautions in the features or not, you can still add and remove these safety features. So I think that was a dumb idea by Kazlan. I've read some great reviews for the new Child's Play, which is great, it's good to read, but I've also read some really bad reviews, and the bad reviews that I've read, not from everyone, but the bad reviews, some of the bad reviews that I've read are because people just can't separate this Child's Play to the original Child's Play. And I know I've been comparing both of them in this review, which is fine to do as long as you can separate it when you're reviewing it, and that's exactly what I've done. I think if you can separate both movies and both storylines, I personally think you would enjoy this. It does try something new, it does keep you entertained, and I did have a lot of fun with this film. Yes, there's a lot of cliches, yes, there's a lot of things that happen in this movie that happen in a lot of horror movies, and I think I predicted the ending before it happened. However, I still had fun with it, and I highly recommend it. So that's my spoiler review for Child's Play, guys. As this is a spoiler review, you can leave all your spoilers down below and we can discuss some of them in more detail. I haven't touched on all the spoilers in the movie, obviously, because the video would be too long. So for something that you remembered in the movie that you want to talk about, leave your comments down below and we'll have a discussion. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for watching again, thanks for subscribing, I'll see you soon, bye bye.